Well, good evening, everybody. I'm so glad y'all are here. In light of our wonderful Jules being in Mexico, Jill Markajon and I are gonna talk to you tonight, and I'm really excited. This is great. So, when we were sort of asked to host this call, one of the things that they really wanted us to share our insight in is the way that we function our Plexus business along with another full-time career. Um, and so Jill and Jill is a school counselor and I work in investment management. I'm a client manager at an investment management firm. So we kind of work the typical 9 to 5 business hours, but I know Jill will speak to her schedule a bit more, but mine is very, I'm in the office at 8 in the morning. I have a lunch break. I leave at 4, but of course I've got kid activities and church activities and stuff. So when I first began sharing about Plexus, it really was derived. I was already a fully transformed health story. I had been on the products for a year and a half before I ever really talked about them, which is insane when I think about it now. I think about how many people could have been helped so much sooner. But to be honest, it was fear that kept me from doing that, fear of what people would think, fear that I would fail, fear that I would let down myself or others around me who I tried to help, or that people just for some reason wouldn't get the same results I did. But I found myself in a place where I really needed to get my products paid for. There was no way on earth I was going to stop taking Plexus. It absolutely changed my life. So I just said, let's see what happens. And for the course of the beginning of it, it really was just about getting my products paid for. But the more I got involved in the community and the more I saw people around me changing for the better, I just couldn't help it but to keep going. And then about 6 months ago, I think everything about what I wanted from Plexus shifted. I started really praying and listening to God's prompting in my life and what Plexus was supposed to be for me and my family. And I have really honed in on my why, which is the first thing that I really wanted to talk about tonight was what is your why and how do you go about finding that? So for me, it is about freedom, but mostly freedom for my husband, who is very unhappy in his full-time job. My dream is to build enough income where he will not have to worry about what he makes at his job for us to get by, that he would be able to go pursue something he's passionate about too and have a fuller quality of life with that. And the other is just being able to give more to my church, being a substantial giver at my church and for missions and things like that. Being able to just do the things for my kids that I want to do and get up and travel and things like that. But, finding your why is just really the thing that is going to spark what you want to do for others too. So, I think, what's driving you to do the work is very important because the work takes time. It takes up time. It's not easy. Like we say, it's simple. We have simple programs, simple steps to take to help people, but it isn't necessarily easy. So what drives you to do the work? What have you sat and envisioned for your life and what it'll look like when you do the work and make it happen? So I've done a lot of mindset work over the last few months, and that's really helped tremendously in one-on-one coaching for me with Sarah. Has just been an awesome experience, and just taking ownership of what I want, my dreams, and how I want to serve others in this capacity. So the way that I go about doing this and is I have to be very intentional, and Jill is going to talk about intentionality in a little bit, but I have developed my own system of being very regimented in how I spend my time, and fitting in. That's the way I have to fit it in. So the first thing that I always do now, and that I recommend doing if you have an extremely busy schedule, is write out your daily schedule of responsibilities for the full week, hour by hour, and then make note of each pocket of time that you find is available each day that you could do Plexus work. And one of the things that I've had to teach myself is, if it isn't really open, don't put it down, because you know in your heart, like, this is the time that I can devote to my work. And don't set yourself up for disappointment for feeling like you didn't produce during that time, or you didn't work during that time. So, you have to get really hard on yourself about, okay, no, this is actual time that I can spend doing this focused work. Yeah, because that's one thing that I deal with is, and I've told you, before, when I talk about why I didn't share for a while, is feeling like a failure, and I don't want to feel like I've let myself down. So I set my expectations, they have to be real and intentional. Write out your plans for what you'll do. Like, don't give yourself the chance to sit there and just stew on, oh my gosh, there's so much I could do, and so I don't do anything. That was a big obstacle for me in the beginning. So now I write out what I'm going to do. I'm going to message. I'm going to do self-development through podcasts or reading or getting on team calls, doing customer check-ins or business builder check-ins. I'm very intentional about defining what that time is going to look like. And like I said, find ways to conquer the fear that keeps you from doing the actual work. I used to get paralyzed trying to figure out what I would do in the time that I had. And so making a plan and sticking to it really is the best thing that I've found to do. I have notes. Y'all look at these. I'm a planner. Make sure you utilize the resources like the team pages, Rally Chat. If you're not in a Rally Chat, they have saved me since they began. Oh my goodness, I'm so grateful for Rally Chats. I follow lots of other brand ambassadors' Instagram pages for content, ideas, stories, reels, because it's inspiring. I'm learning through it. And it just gives me those ideas when I don't have a lot of time to sit and churn about content creation. Health and wellness niche pages on Instagram and Facebook. One of my tools that I use is, because I'm a Hashimoto's, testimony, I follow Hashimoto's groups and I try to, reach out to people there. Yeah, and be sure to save all the posts that you're coming across. You're like, oh, I could do that, because you're never going to find it again if you don't. So I save them so I can come back to them when I do have the time. So just some examples of things that I do regularly now. I listen to podcasts in the car when the kids are finally out of the car. Usually, I take my kids to school and then I head to my office. So usually in the mornings, I only have about 15 or 20 minutes alone time in the car. But so I will listen to a Brittany Howard podcast. I will listen to, something that just gets me motivated for the day and sets my mind right on my business. I listen to now. I make it a priority to get on as many team calls as I can, even the ones during the day on lunch breaks. I try to work my lunch break around that so I can join in. And these, in the evenings. This isn't something that I did consistently 5 months ago. It's hard. This is my son's bedtime. My husband's putting him to bed now. But I said, I want to make this a priority because it feeds me, and being with you guys is such an inspiration for me. Let's see, I use my lunch break to coach with Sarah one day a week. I use others to do messages, customer check-ins, make a reel, message new contacts, and be active in reach outs. I use my car ride after work and on my way to get the kids to make new customer onboarding calls. That's usually the time that I schedule those with my new customers, just to tell them what to expect from the products, all of that. Or I'll do just a check-in with somebody. I'll just call them, that afternoon as I'm driving. And then in the evenings for me, they are a challenge because of my family. I have a 10-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son. And so I have definitely had to make shifts. I've had to tell them, like, I took this to heart at convention when they said, make your family a part of this. So I have shared with them what my goals for our family are through this business. I have let them in. My kids know about Punta Cana, and they're coming with me. So like, I bring them into my dreams for what this is for us, and they understand, a bit more when mommy has to go get on a call or something like that. My husband, I'm working on him. but yeah, just being anybody who's a part of your life, make them a part of it. And yeah, but it is about balance, and that is the most critical part. Don't let one thing overrule the other. It's got to be about balance. So yeah, I think, God has just planted a lot of seeds for this business in my heart. And it's just blossomed in an incredible way. So it's easier to find how to make this work. So I think you just have to find like what sets your heart on fire and make it work, So that's where I am, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the journey of self-development that this has brought me on. I'm grateful for how much more I'm gonna learn and grow and be able to share with others. So yeah, that's what I got.
Yay, thanks, Megan. So much of what she says I could repeat, and I'm sorry I have a little cold that of course came on Saturday because, like Megan said, I'm a middle school counselor. So everybody's back in school for about 2 weeks. So they are all bringing their colds to the nurse who's right across the hall from my office. So I apologize for my voice, but I'm also a mom of 3. My kids are 12, 9, and 7. So my day starts every day at about 4:45. I get up, I work out, and then I get my kids up for school at 6, and I get ready while my husband gets them ready. And then my job starts at 6:55. And my kids go to school at 7:05. I work till 3. Once a week, I have meetings till 4, sometimes more than once a week. Yes, Immune Plus definitely helps. And then we get home, and my kids' evening activities start at 5. So I get home, and I got to cook them dinner. My boys wrestle 3 nights a week, and my daughter has soccer another night a week. So 3 days a week, we have to be out of the house by 5 for sports, and 1 day a week, we have to be out of the house by 5 for church. So I have an hour window. So when I used to think like, oh, I didn't get that done during the day, it's fine, I'll do it in the evening. Well, by the time I get home at 9 o'clock from their sports, there is nothing good happening at 9 o'clock at night because I am brain dead. So because I work in a school full time, I kept saying, okay, how do I do this when I have a job? There's a lot of amazing women that have amazing businesses, but most of my uplines were doing it from home. And once I went back to work, I was like, I don't know how to make this work. And a lot of ideas that they would give me, I would try and it would work for a week. And then I'm like, oh shoot, I lost that time. And if it didn't look exactly like I thought it was supposed to look, I was like, I can't do this. Now I failed. And so then I went in a downward spiral. And I was fortunate enough to connect on social media with somebody who is a former administrator at a school. And so when I got to meet her in person at convention, I was like, oh my gosh, can you help me figure this out? I don't get a lunch break. Every teacher I talk to says, on your lunch break, do your reach outs and I'm like, I don't have a lunch break. And I don't know when a crisis is going to hit a kid to know what to do. And so, Megan said, write down the non-negotiables. And so I do that, which for my job, if looking at my calendar a day in advance, usually looks pretty empty. But what I also put in my calendar is every single Plexus call that I can get on during the day. And I tell people like, I know Alice and I had a call last week and I said, yes, this time works for me as long as a crisis doesn't happen. because that's what my job is. It's a last minute, like, I'm sorry, I can't be on. And I've realized it's okay if I plan something and can't be on it because that crisis came up, because that's also where my heart is. But if I don't plan it and say, oh, I'll let you know when I'm free, I'm never going to let them know because there's always paperwork to do. So, I know not everybody has a job like mine where your day looks empty, but it's really not. But I would say if you can, plan the call and rearrange it if needed, because if you don't plan it, you're not going to get on it. Or plan the reach outs. I mean, this is my calendar. I transfer stuff every month. So I look at, like, I'm a former teacher, so I have teacher mentality. So I have a list of like who I'm relationship building with, who my new asks were, who my business asks are, and following up with my team. And I put notes in there all the time. I'm so sorry. One second. No, thank you.
Yes.
Mm-mm. That just like got me all hot. Now my youngest is turning on the TV, and I said, no, thank you. I'll just mute it, Mom. I take notes of everything when I reach out to somebody, because I know this is a relationship business, and my entire life relationships have been important to me. But the reality is I'm a human. I work at a school. I have 900 kids that I care for at school, and I have 3 of my own personal children and a husband at home. I am going to forget to follow up with my people. And I used to think that that was like sad. Like, I should know, I care about these people. I should be checking in with them anyway. But it's okay to say, don't forget to call, whoever. I have a sideline chat going with a couple ladies. Some are on this team and some are not. And I just said to them the other day, I'm glad we come here and check in, because otherwise I would forget to keep in touch with you guys. Not because I don't love them. So my biggest tips on how to make it work are, like Megan said, it has to be a priority. And so I prioritize what I'm going to do. Like, before I go to bed tonight, I figure out who I'm going to reach out to tomorrow. I have a list of 5. I can tell you right now, I didn't reach out to my 5 today because I had a training out of the other side of the county today, and I got home to the school at 4:30, and I had to get my boys to wrestling at 5 and feed them first. So, and then we were busy with another prior engagement until we picked them up at 8:30. Ideally, I'm going to get off this call and do my 5 reach outs. But the way I schedule my week is I do 5 reach outs Monday through Friday, and Saturday is my catch up day. So if I'm super tired and I'm like, I just can't, like, my headspace, if I'm like, oh, I got to do these reach outs, that's what's coming across to these people. Right. And I don't want that to come across. So I have realized that it's okay to say, you know what, this has to wait, because I've already scheduled that room to make it up. And that means Saturday morning, if I'm doing reach out makeups, that's all I'm doing. So if I message, Allison and Megan, because they're who I'm reaching out to that day, and Allison messages me back and I'm messaging Megan, I don't respond to Allison right away, because I have scheduled time to do my reach out makeups. That's all I'm doing. I'm not responding to people. I'll get back to that later. And that was a big mental shift for me. And that came from when I talked to the friend I was mentioning that was like, this is how I made it work. Because she said, the problem is you think I'll do it during the day. I'll make it up at lunchtime. I'll make it up after bedtime. And you don't. And by the end of the week, you're like, well, I didn't reach out to 15 people this week. And now what am I going to do? And you get sucked into, and your makeup time, responding to people. So she said, schedule your Saturday morning for makeup time and then response time, and make it 2 different blocks of time. And so that is what I have found has been super successful, because I think I always got lost in, honestly, the customer care, not because I didn't care, but because it's easy to get sidetracked with everything. So I schedule who I'm reaching out to. I make notes when I reached out to them. If I reached out to Megan today, then by Friday, I put her name down as like a follow-up. So if I haven't heard from her, I remember to go back and check in. And then if I don't hear back from them, her name goes on next week somewhere, so that I don't forget, oh, let me go back and reach out to her. And I used to think, oh, I'll just turn the page back a week. It's fine. I'll remember. But then I turn it back and I'm like, oh, did that check mark mean I heard from her? Did that check mark, so it's whatever system works for you. I've been with Plexus for 4.5 years. This is not even my 4th system I've come up with, and all of them work for a season. So I think that's my other advice is, like, just like our kids growing up, if you have children, like, everything's a season and a growing phase with them. So is our business. and it's going to change, and that's okay. It shouldn't look the same all the time, or we're going to get stagnant and not have to grow. So, and getting on the team calls, I mean, I get on them during the day. I try to close my door so then people don't interrupt that meeting. I'm sorry, I didn't know that light was like that. But I'll even put an earbud in and leave my door open because I want them to know I'm available. And I've just realized if I need to turn off my camera real quick and take out my earbud, that's okay. They're recorded, I can catch it later. But at least I know I'm committed to what's going on here and not just saying, oh, but my full-time job takes me away from that. You know, I love my full-time job, but I also love this job. And I get to change lives in both of them. And I don't want to miss an opportunity because I'm busy there, you know? So I think that, I mean, Megan really said all this stuff so good, but I think figuring out what works for you, for your system. And if you're like, yeah, I don't know, then talk to other different people. Don't just talk to one person and see what works for them and be like, well, I tried it. That didn't work for me. Because then you're still stuck. And not what works for me today might not work for me in a year, but it works today. So I'm going to still try it tomorrow. And that's all we can focus on. So, does anybody have any specific questions about, I don't know, if you have any struggles with work or balance or anything?
Not so much a question, but I love what you were saying about having a separate chunk of time for reach outs and a separate chunk for like replies and conversation stuff. Cause that's where I tend to get, like you said, just sidetracked. And because somebody will reply when I'm talking to this person, and I'm like, oh, well, I just sent them a message. And so then I reply to them, and then they're in conversation and I forgot what I was doing over there.
Yeah. Or you get in a conversation that's like 10 minutes back and forth. And then you're like, well, my time's up. Now my appointment came up and I'm done. And you've really never, you reached out to one person. So that made a big difference for me too.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
All right. Well, I don't know that I have how to stop the recording on.
Oh,
my
that's okay.
phone.
I have to stop it because it's on my